Hello and welcome to the Nordic Wolf Podcast. I am your host, Eric Darris. After a couple-week hiatus, we are back. I decided to take a little 2-week break here after the end of the Timberwolves season, but now we're approaching the NBA Finals, and we have some Vikings talk, some Wolves talk, so we are back to weekly podcast. Before I begin, I would please ask, if you have not, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Nordic Wolf Podcast. Otherwise, please subscribe to my Substack, which is linked to this podcast and to my YouTube channel. It's The Nordic Wolf on Substack. I just put out 2 articles here right before recording. One regarding we're starting a 4-week NFC North preview articles. We're going to do this week is the Chicago Bears, next week Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers, then a full division preview where I kind of break down what each team's winning the division looks like versus the Vikings. We've already covered the Vikings, so I'm not going to do an additional article on the Vikings. And then on my Timberwolves side, we're doing a kind of a roster autopsy of players that were on the team last year and what I expect if they have a role on this team next year. A few guys like Joe Ingles has already been signed with the Melbourne basketball team in Australia. So we're not going to be really covering that. But yeah, we're breaking down bench guys this week. Starters next week should be a little bit longer on each starter. So that's why I decided to break that into 2 weeks. So again, please subscribe to the Nordic Wolf Substack and subscribe to the Nordic Wolf YouTube channel. Like I said, I do this as a passion project, so the more people that view it, the more people that read my articles, the more encouragement I get, and as we're trying to grow, it's really helpful. So, on today's show, in a bit here, we'll be joined by David Christensen, and we are going to go through some Wolves talk. We're going to go through some trade opportunities. We're going to talk a little bit of the NBA Finals, and just kind of some general basketball stuff. And yeah, should be a lot of fun. But before David jumps on, I do want to talk about a little bit of Vikings. We had some interesting dynamics this week with Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, most people here reading this or seeing this have probably read the quotes from J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray regarding the other one being there. Kyler Murray's quote sounded professional, sounded what you expect a quarterback to sound like. J.J. McCarthy didn't. J.J. McCarthy's quote was, somewhere along the lines of, it's like 2 guys in a classroom sitting on opposite ends of the room trying to be coached. It wasn't a really good analogy, but I think what we're seeing is J.J. is not thrilled that he's basically been told by the media. He's reading it. Nobody thinks he's going to win the job, including me. The talent level that I've seen, I think Kyler Murray is a more talented quarterback, and outside of just a giant leap of an improvement from J.J. McCarthy, I just don't see how he beats out Kyler Murray. And I'm starting to struggle then after his media comments to see, okay, well, what's his role if he loses the job? And if you have a backup quarterback, to me, the number one thing you need from your backup quarterback is they cannot be a distraction. And I worry that JJ is going to be a distraction potentially going forward. And that's a problem for the Vikings. I hope I'm wrong because I really don't want to depend on Carson Wentz and Max Brosmer again as your 2 and 3 quarterbacks. But it might be over for JJ McCarthy if we're seeing that. I thought outside of his play and just being able to stay healthy, we needed to see a more polished, more mature version of JJ, and just doesn't really feel like we got that this week. Now there's time for him to change that, and maybe he becomes a little bit more or a little less hostile towards the situation, and he's going to have to figure it out. By all accounts, they did split reps 50-50. He had some nice throws, but most of the media that I'm hearing from said Kyler looked better, looked a little more polished. JJ still missed a few throws, and while he did have a little bit more touch on some of those easier passes. He didn't quite. He didn't look like he had taken the step that's going to be needed to beat Kyler Murray. And so, it's OTAs. It's early. I still expect them to be battling through training camp. But if the Vikings could flip him for a 4, I would guess they do that. But we will see. All right, coming up next, we will have David Christensen joining. Like I said, all things basketball coming up. So thank you again for joining, and we'll be back right after this. All right, we are back, and David Christensen joins me now. David, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah. So we'll start here. I guess I was just going to ask you, did Spurs Thunder Game 7, which kind of I would say the series itself wasn't as good as what it was lived up to be, but Game 1 and Game 7 were probably by far the two best games in the series. Spurs win it in 7, which I was surprised in. I thought the Thunder were going to do it myself, but I think with injuries and whatnot that derailed the Thunder. I did see an interesting note. The Wolves have now lost 4 consecutive years to the team that ends up winning the Western Conference Finals, so we can hang that banner. But any thoughts on what you saw from that series on, Wemby versus Shea, or where the Wolves stand on that?
Yeah, I mean,
I wrote an article last week about just what I thought separated them, and just in general, I think it kind of came to fruition where Ant's still a level below them as a superstar. We don't really have a number 2 superstar to fill in, and that's where Oklahoma City, I think, lost because Chet got punked and was a little bitch in that series, and we just don't have the depth of two-way talent that is all the way down our roster. We're probably 2 or 3 players short from what both those teams have.
Mm-hmm. I think a fully healthy Jalen Williams would have meant the Thunder winning for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. Or even AJ Mitchell, I think gives them a really good chance of winning. I thought Game 5, they had a really good game plan with the lack of ball handlers, but as they got into Game 6 and Game 7, the Spurs were able to adjust on guys like Jared McCain and Alex Caruso. I thought Cason Wallace was pretty excellent, but the Thunder are already in trouble in terms of, I was looking at their cap situation, they're already over the second apron by like $30 million now. So they're already at the point where they're going to start losing depth. I mean, I think Lou Dort's gone. Hartenstein might be gone, which again, I don't know if I think Hartenstein might have gotten saved for this series or just this series alone because they can't depend on Chet in this, especially this matchup. And I don't know how you look forward and see the next, 3 years. Chet's going to eventually have to figure out Wemby, otherwise you're never going to go anywhere. But yeah, and then the NBA Finals starts Wednesday. Knicks Spurs. Any thoughts on where you think that one goes?
Yeah, so I think the Knicks were basically given a free pass to the finals, essentially with the pathway that they had. But at the same time, winning 11 straight is obviously very impressive. Absolutely love their team. I love Brunson. He's very intelligent. He knows how to game plan. Cat's been playing excellent. I have this sneaky feeling that Cat is going to be in foul trouble for the finals. And I think he's going to have some kind of Timberwolves Cat to him. But overall, the Knicks have obviously a lot more experience than the Spurs. But I think the Spurs' depth is going to eventually just overwhelm the Knicks, my personal opinion. And we'll go through predictions at the end. But what are your thoughts on the finals?
I like the Knicks actually in 6. So I actually think the Mike Brown has unlocked a really nice defensive pattern with Cat. I don't think you're going to see any of Cat on Wemby really for the most part.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
I think they tuck Cat away on Champagnie. Kind of similar to what other teams have done, where there's not a great non-shooter. Pretty much everybody can shoot threes on the Spurs, but where the Thunder struggled, their guards are not very big, not very physical. They can't they got overwhelmed by the Spurs guards. I mean, I don't see the Spurs guards overwhelming Josh Hart, Mikal
Mm.
Bridges, or and OG Anunoby will be on Wemby
Mm.
over
Mm-hmm.
100 possessions. I think he is was the most efficient defensive player on Wemby throughout the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
He's OG's one of my favorite players in the NBA. Dude's a
Yeah.
tank, and he's the perfect. He is the perfect like specimen to guard Wemby. Like
Yeah, he
get up
makes the
under
best
him,
runs.
frustrate him. You know, again, it's Wemby, so there's going to be some help. He open Wemby's roll gravity opens up so much for everyone else. I just think the Spurs have less options against the Knicks defense than they did, but they are going to obviously try and, whatever. They're probably going to have Vassell on or Brunson on Vassell, and I think that's a matchup that they can really take advantage of, and or they can with switches they can get Brunson on Castle or Harper, and he's just going to get cooked on defense. So that's the Spurs. On the Knicks side, I think Cat offensively is going to be really tough. They're going to stick Castle on him. At least that's what they did in the regular season. And I mean,
Hmm.
Castle's bigger than what people think. He's 6'6". He's built like a truck. And then obviously, I think they'll have Wemby kind of hover off Josh Hart, and they'll just give Josh Hart open catch and shoots pretty much throughout the series. So that's a big X factor if Josh Hart can make his shots. And then, because if they can get Cat or Wemby out on Cat on the perimeter, I think Cat's gonna have a huge series because Wemby won't be able to cover Cat on the perimeter. He's too fast, too strong. So I like Cat's matchups offensively. I think if Brunson can, similarly to Shea, try and get switches onto Champagny, he can offensively have some pretty big explosions, but they're gonna probably put Harper and Fox as a mix. Fox is actually a pretty decent defender, honestly.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It's closer than I think it's about a 55-45. I would lean Spurs, but my feeling for it was I saw the Spurs win last night and I'm like, man, they just emotionally are going to be spent after beating the Thunder. Like that was to them the NBA championship, and then we've just seen it so many times where it's like they're going to come out flat potentially early on in the series, and the Knicks are. I mean, the Knicks have just been sitting there waiting. I mean, the rest can be a little bit of a. It's kind of a hit or miss.
Hmm.
It'll depend on how much practice they've been doing, how seriously they've been taking it. I'm guessing since the NBA Finals is going to be pretty. I think they'll be pretty dialed in, and I just think the Spurs are going to come out in Game One and just be like absolutely emotionally drained after that series with the Thunder because that thing meant everything to them to beat the Thunder, which I get it. The Thunder were the big bad monster, and now you feel like it's like, okay, now you got to go win one more series. It's kind of a emotionally draining thing, and that's why I'm leaning Knicks. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
be shocked, and I mean the Spurs deserve to be favored, but
Hmm.
at the value of the betting lines of like 2-1, I would bet the Knicks if I was betting this series. Like I just think that value's there, and I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
closer than that than what people think. So
For the value, I would definitely roll with the Knicks. Honestly, I just think Wimby, I don't think he's going to allow them to lose. That guy just has this insane fire in his eyes. And yeah, they might be tired, but I think Wimby, again, is just, he's going to take over. He's not going to allow them to lose. That's just my personal thoughts. The guy is a monster.
yeah, I mean, there's if he stays healthy, he legit is like somebody that could be the best player of all time.
Yeah, and I predict that he's going to get injured one of these seasons, unfortunately, and I don't hope that on anyone or wish that on anyone, but I do think he's going to get injured one of these seasons, and I think there's going to be at least a decent part of his career that's going to be affected by injuries. That's just my personal thoughts. So I think he needs to put some muscle on to maybe not have that occur.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I just think his frame, there's no way he just doesn't see any
Foot and
injury
ankle
issues.
injuries,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard for me to not see him be injury prone in the future and have it affect his career. Hope not, but that's just my personal thoughts.
Yeah.
Hey, one question for you. Do you think Just a question, but do you think the Wolves would have had any chance against the Spurs with a fully healthy Ant and a fully healthy Dante? I think
I
they
don't
would
think they
have.
would have won, but I think they
Uh,
would have been more competitive.
yeah, I mean, it went to 6 games. Now, one of those games, Wimby was out for whatever, over half the game. And if a fully healthy Dante and Ant were playing, that situation probably just wouldn't have occurred because things would have been different, right?
Yeah.
But I do think the Wolves definitely would have had a chance with a fully healthy Ant and Dante. Just my personal thoughts.
Yeah, I mean Dante, the spacing that he creates, we just didn't have any outside shooting really that was consistent. Jaden, for a 40% 3-point shooter in the regular season, like you can't be as bad as he was shooting from
Yeah.
three. I mean, he was like Lou Dort out there, basically just planking threes. Julius, I mean, I don't think it would have mattered if Julius played as bad as he did. You're never going to win that series, even if you're fully healthy. Like
Yeah.
he's he
Is
was
there
so
any
bad.
scenario where you would be willing to take Julius back next season?
Well, if he can't find a trade partner,
Well, they're going to find a trade partner because I mean his contract's not crazy. But I'm
no.
just saying, is there any scenario where Tim Conley says, "Hey, we're keeping Randall for whatever reason"? I mean, would you ever be okay with that?
Yes, but Rudy can't be on the team then.
Right,
One of
right.
them has to go. They
But
can't be on
With
the.
Rudy, they're going to obviously get more for Rudy.
Yeah.
And I think Rudy's the only path to getting a legit all-star. Although you could say maybe they can trade Randall for a Kyrie and also maybe
Yeah.
give up a pick or something. What's it,
Yeah, and
20,
we'll go into
2033?
that here in a bit,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think let's just jump in, I guess. So for the Wolves, obviously, like they can't just stand pat like they did last year.
Hmm.
I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, you hear anybody that covers the team talk, they say everybody from other teams is like, I don't understand how the Julius Rudy pairing works. You've got two guys that can't shoot, and it worked for a while because Julius, I think, outshot what his career percentage was for the first probably year and a half he was here. But overall, he's like a low 30s 3-point shooter, which at his volume is just not very good. And Rudy can't shoot threes. He's never made one in his whole career. So, I mean, it just doesn't work in the modern NBA to have two non-shooters. And when Jaden's also shooting badly, you basically had three guys on the floor at all times that couldn't shoot from three. And you just can't win against a team like the Spurs when you can't have any perimeter outside shooting. So I think, to me, it seems like Julius and Rudy make the most sense for the most expendable guys. I would say
Hmm.
it was pretty clear. Connolly made it; those two were not included in his core of the young four core that he talked about in the end of season meetings. Which he said Ant, Jaden, Nas, and Baron J.
Hmm.
Which I still don't think anyone outside of Ant, I don't think anybody is necessarily like. It wouldn't shock me if anyone got traded depending on the player. So that's where I kind of have a list of players here. Wanted to go through them with you, kind of talk
Yeah.
out each player and what you know, who are the players that you think it would cost, and I'll kind of go back and forth. So, I
Hmm.
mean, we can start with the big name player. Giannis is obviously right now open on the trade market.
Hmm.
I personally don't. I think this one is not that likely anymore. I think it would have been more likely the trade deadline. I just think the Wolves don't have the picks and or the players that are going to entice the Bucks enough to make them want to do a deal with the Wolves unless Giannis forces his hand, which I don't think he is going to. I think he wants to stay in the East to stay away from the Spurs and the Thunder by all accounts, which I don't necessarily blame him. But what do you think a Wolves trade for Giannis looks like?
Well, I would center around Jaden and
Yeah.
again picks, which we don't really have. As far as other pieces, I'm not really sure how they would concoct the necessary pieces to grab Giannis. I know
Yeah, I
Jaden would
mean,
be the centerpiece, obviously. And by the way, people are flipping up a little bit on Jaden. Everyone was saying, "Oh, he's a star now after the Denver series," and then he has one bad series against San Antonio. Now people are kind of not treating him like trash, but just kind of like not really talking about Jaden being like the star that we saw in that Denver series. I think Jaden's going to take a decent step forward next season. I think I'm very high on Jaden.
Yeah, I am too. But my one thing, I think you need to get another defender that can be our primary perimeter defender because if you do want him to take steps on the offensive side of the court, I think he needs to take some of the pressure off himself on the defensive end.
Hmm. Like
Just like
Drew
any,
Holiday.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but I mean, I think you can find a high level perimeter defender that's not going to give you a ton of offense, and they can still come off the bench. I just want, you know, I wish Jalen Clark could be this guy, but he's just so bad offensively
Oh,
that
he's so terrible offensively.
you just can't count on him to be a player. I think they bring Jalen back. I mean, that was my Wolves article I put out this week is kind of just going through bench guys and who I expect back. I expect actually most of our depth pieces back. We have a lot of unrestricted or restricted free agents. I think most of these guys are vet minimum deals, and I think Jalen Clark is a vet minimum deal that makes sense. But man, he needs to if he could become a 35% three-point shooter, he would be so valuable to this team because he
Yeah,
could be
work
our.
on his three in the offseason. Hey, but
But
if
I don't.
we
I mean, he's a 20 sub 25% from corner three, and the Wolves need a guy that is a little more consistent than that in that position.
do you think the Wolves could give up Rudy and still be a good like a very good team, like a potential like top 3 or 4 seed in the Western Conference? Rudy's been so foundational to the Wolves in the past that I think a lot of people are not thinking about what are the consequences of losing Rudy. I think a lot of people are just talking about trading him when I don't know. I think that could be a dangerous path forward.
If you're going to trade Rudy, you got to get some type of rim protection back. And again,
Like
it's hard to find that because a good rim protector costs what Rudy costs.
yeah, like a Lively or
Yeah. And so you're paying 30 million for a rim protector. Well, they're going to come with if they're a better offensive player, they're going to have defensive liabilities too. So, I mean, if you have a guy that's a good offensive player plus a good rim protector like Rudy, you're looking at a $40 million player, which I mean, I guess that's where about Rudy is, but yeah, it's tricky with Rudy because yeah, he raises the floor in the regular season, but then he becomes unplayable in the two biggest series that you need him in. So
mhm.
I mean, I get that catch 22, but I
Because
tend to
Baron J's not ready yet. You know, it's probably going to take a
no,
couple
and
years.
I
He's
hear a
not
lot of
strong
people
enough.
kind of saying, well, go with the Baron J option. It's like, well, he couldn't defend this year without fouling, so
And he didn't play
he's
basketball till like 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, come
yeah,
on, man.
I think he's ready. He needs to be ready to. You need to take it slow with him. He should be a role player next year that gets 15 to 20 minutes a night and continue to build him up. But he's probably 2 years away from really being ready to potentially be a starter, and that's if he works out.
He
So,
will. He will, but yeah, no, I know what you mean. He's like a gazelle right now.
so yeah, for Giannis, I see it centered around Jaden. I think Julius would also still be involved. I mean, Giannis has such a huge contract that it really throws it off. And then I think our 2031 unrestricted pick, which I think actually holds a lot of value at this point, because teams are going to look at it and say, well, there's a chance their team is terrible at that point, and it's not that on. I mean, that's 7 years out, so it's not that hard to believe. Like I could see Ant not being on our team by that
Yeah,
point
the
if we
risk
haven't
the
won.
risk is going after Giannis is you give up all a ton of your core pieces, and then if that doesn't work out, or Giannis is very injury prone, if Giannis gets an injury, you can just basically Ant's going to be bye bye. So are you willing
Yeah,
to take that risk that if you get Giannis and
yeah,
it doesn't work out, that just give up Ant? Get your because you're giving up his buddies too.
yeah,
If you grab Giannis, is he going to be happy about that? I think the risk of going after Giannis is honestly too high for my appetite.
yeah. I'm with you. I think it shrinks your window significantly to like. I mean, our with our core, obviously we need improvements to our core and we need to add some pieces, but we can be competitive for the next 5 to 6 years. I think with Giannis, you got to win with 1 or 2 years. And do you really think with Giannis and then stripping away all our depth that we can beat the Spurs or the Thunder? Because I still don't.
No, they
I
wouldn't
don't
have
think
the
you.
depth.
So.
Nah.
I don't think it makes us good enough. So I don't like Giannis as a Wolf all that much. But I
Listen, if
get
we were
that.
talking about Giannis from the year like 2021 or whatever, the year he won the championship with the Bucks, I even think that Giannis and this Ant, the next year Ant, which is going to probably be even better than this last
Yep.
season, I even think with those two players in mind, they wouldn't have the depth to beat the Spurs or the Thunder. That's how far I'm going. And now we're talking about a Giannis that is obviously older and more injury prone. So no, I don't think they would have the depth to beat the Thunder or
Yeah.
Spurs. No.
And as we're transitioning to the next player, why again I don't really love Giannis is I don't think he fills the need of what we need anyway. Like what we need is more point guard, ball handler, and that's where Kyrie is probably the next, I think, big name where I tend to gravitate more towards Kyrie. His contract is much better. Obviously, there's some risk coming off the ACL injury, but from what I've heard, he was ready to come back at the end. But Dallas was so bad, like, didn't make
Mm-hmm.
any sense for him to come back and play. So you keep your core intact, I think, with Kyrie. Outside of, I do think because like if you're the Dallas Mavericks, Julius Randle is not just gonna like you're not gonna be like, yeah, we'll give you a Kyrie for Julius. Like there's no upside with that. So I do think you're attaching that future first round pick on top of potentially like a Baron J or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
or a Terrence Shannon Jr. Some young player that they feel like they can develop.
Is
Um,
there a way they can concoct a trade to land Kyrie and a PJ Washington or and a Derek Lively? Obviously, you'd have to give up a lot, but that would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, then Rudy would be involved with
Yeah.
which Rudy makes sense in Dallas a little bit. Well, I don't know if he
I
does
don't
actually.
even know if he. I don't think he does. His age, he's old now.
They have so like for them, what's the point of trading one of those guys who give them more offensive
I know.
firepower? So
I've already thought about that. It doesn't make sense, but it would just be cool. I mean, obviously,
Julius does give them something they don't have.
and he's from Dallas, which doesn't matter that
Yeah,
much, but
not
still.
that that matters, but I think Julius would be okay with going there, and I think he would be better there than he would be in a lot of other places. But you know, part of, and I meant to bring this up earlier, but with the new lottery rules, I think Julius and Rudy hold a lot more trade value than they would have if they would have stuck with the old rules now because your
Can you
incentive is
explain?
like,
Can you explain that to the audience, the new rules?
yeah, so basically you have a 5% chance of getting first overall pick if you're the worst three teams and an 8% if you're basically 4 through 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a better chance if you're a play-in team of getting the first round pick or first overall pick than the worst three teams. So essentially a team like Brooklyn, who's been terrible for years, now incentivizes themselves to like try and get players that maybe raise your floor in the regular season that aren't going to get you into the postseason. So Julius Randle is a perfect fit for that. Rudy Gobert, perfect fit for that. They're floor raisers throughout the regular season. They're going to win you probably. You're going to be in that 30 to 35 win rate, which is not going to get you into the playoffs, but it's also going to probably keep you out of the lottery. But then there's this top five rule thing where you can't be in the top five for
Years.
once every 3 years, basically. I think it is like it's convoluted. There's going to be a ton of issues with this new rule that
But I like it.
yeah, I mean, I think it's going to make way more competitive games in the end. But I think one thing you're going to see is you're going to see a team tank in the lottery game because they're going to be like, we'd be better off trying to get a higher pick than trying to uh, be the 8 seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's no fix for tanking really. Like there's always going to be one area where a team's going to tank because it makes sense. It might not be to be the worst team, but this year was pretty bad. I mean, you're playing games in March and you're seeing like when we played the Pacers, they had like their top 8 guys were outside of Obi Toppin.
The reason the Spurs have won 5 championships and maybe a sixth is because they've tanked.
Yep.
brilliantly tanked. They tanked for Tim Duncan and they tanked for Wimby.
Thunder tank too.
Hmm.
Shea sat out for half the year healthy, basically.
It's funny, the Wolves
So,
tanked for 20 plus years. They didn't try to tank, but they just did because they were so bad and they still couldn't. Well, they finally got Ant, but I mean, it's just
well, and I
funny.
think that's the argument is the Wolves tried to get too good too quickly with Ant, and they should have taken. But I still think even without Rudy, we would have been a playing team and been playing for playoffs anyway with Cat and Ant. So
Yeah.
I push back on that. Like, we aren't going to be so shitty that we end up with a top three pick and end up getting Wemby to pair with Ant or something like that. I
And by
mean,
the way, that for the people who are bitter about trading Cat still, Cat would not have been the reason why the Wolves would win a championship. Okay.
no, and if you insert the Wolves in the Eastern Conference, they would have been playing the Knicks for the Eastern Conference title.
And I think the Wolves would have lost because they don't have a healthy Ant. Now, if you say they have a healthy Ant, I think the Wolves would probably win a series against the Knicks. But
Correct, yeah. But yeah, I don't think it's not like the Sam Darnold situation. The Wolves had to make that deal, and Cat had a more value than what Rudy was going to give you, and his contract became so hard. Even if you moved Rudy, you would have still had to sacrifice one of Jaden and or Nas if you kept Cat.
right,
And you were leaving yourself with a giant defensive liability. I mean, go back to that Memphis series. We could not stop any. We were like the Nuggets now, where we had no rim protection. And I don't know. You're not going to beat the Thunder without rim protection. Protection.
yeah.
You're
Going
not going
back to
to.
the going back to the trade for Kyrie, though, I think that is my favorite trade the Wolves can make.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's value makes the most sense.
Yep, we can
Where
keep the core intact, the core of the team intact. Kyrie's going to bring you obviously excellent ball handling. He's going to bring you a kind of a second efficient, high leverage, clutch scorer along with Ant. Just imagine those two can both kind of take turns being point guard, shooting guard. Just imagine that. I mean, I think that would be
uh,
so
I
dynamic.
I want nothing to do with Ant being point guard anymore.
I
It's the way
know,
it's
but
too much.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
you can put Kyrie as a shooting guard. You can put him off ball too. I agree with you. I'd
Yeah.
rather have Kyrie take the ball handling responsibilities more often. But Kyrie is so dynamic in that kind of more of a shooting guard off ball spot that you could kind of,
Yeah.
go back and forth between the two. I agree with you though. Let's have less point Ant.
Less Ant on the point usually means more efficient Ant defense. His defense has fallen off significantly over the last couple of years just because I don't think he has the energy
Oh yeah,
to.
absolutely. It's too much work for him.
But Ant's path to becoming a superstar is two way. Like, I don't.
Yeah. His defense was embarrassing last year, and it hasn't really been legit for a couple seasons. So
Yeah.
Ant needs to get back to being a good defensive player. That's the key to him being potentially, the best player in the NBA. Although that's not going to happen probably anymore with Shea and with the Joker. Although the Joker, you can say what you
I
want.
mean, Wemby, I think, is more the.
And well, yeah, absolutely.
So,
I was don't even need to list Wimby.
but all right. So we got a few more players here. These ones, not all are going to take very long, but Kawhi Leonard, he's been rumored. I I mean, I love Kawhi. I don't necessarily know the fit here is all that great. I mean, you can
Number
play the
one,
four, but
Number one, I don't think he's going to want to play in Minnesota. That's
no.
just stating the obvious. He didn't want to stay in Toronto. A lot of it was due to the cold, and it's colder here than Toronto. Number two, he's old, obviously.
Yep.
35, or he's about to be 36. I looked at that up earlier. Number three, he's insanely injury prone, and if he's not happy in Minnesota, who's to say that he's going to maybe want to sit out a little extra if he has a little injury here or there. I think those are the three biggest things. Now, he had an excellent season last year. He averaged around 28 points, was kind of the first season we've seen in a while where he was like prime Kawhi.
Hmm.
Now, and if Kawhi is at his best, even at the age of 35, it's going to be 35. He's turning 35. Him and Ant could really take the team far. I truly
Yeah.
believe that. but it's asking too much, and again, the risk is too high. Is it as high as a Giannis trade? No, because you wouldn't have to give up as many assets. But the risk is high in other ways, such as Kawhi not enjoying his time here, Kawhi being injury prone, Kawhi sitting out. So I think the risk is also super high for a Kawhi trade, and I'm just not willing to. I don't have the appetite to take it on.
I tend to agree with you overall. What I do like, so Kawhi gives you high level perimeter defense. He's one of the better two-way players in the league. I mean, his perimeter defense is unbelievable. Outside of SGA, he's probably one of the best mid-range shooters. I would say he's probably the second best to SGA. So he brings you a lot of high upside. He does give you some ball handling capability, but again, I don't think he quite solves that issue either for the Wolves. I think there's a lot of he wouldn't be playing back-to-backs. It would be one or two, like, so you'd be missing him in all those games, basically. You're going to miss him on a number of other games for minor injuries. He does not play through injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame him because he's missed time. And I think if that you would be knowing signing up, like, you're going to get 60 to 65 games at best from Kawhi, even if he's healthy all year.
And what's his contract situation? Do you know?
I want to say he's right around 40, but...
well, I'm talking about how many seasons.
I think he might be a free agent after next season.
Mm. And my computer's acting slow, of course.
So he had signed 2026, 2027. So he would basically be a free agent after next season.
And
what
you're
paying him
give up?
$50.3 million.
What would we have to give up to get him? What do you think?
Well, to match salary, you'd have to give up probably Julius, Dante, and or
future first round pick,
or you don't re-sign Ayo Dosunmu. But
yeah,
I don't know. He's fantastic, but again, I just don't think he's.
Oh, I really like Kawhi. I really like him. It's just I don't see it. I don't see him having two healthy seasons straight.
No,
it's hard for me to see that. Let's just look at his history. I don't think there's a high chance of that.
But all right, so next, Kevin Durant. I know your thoughts on this. You don't want him at all. I don't either. Like, I don't even really want to entertain like who would cost. It would be a Durant or Sengun. I don't want either of them.
Yeah, I like Sengun, but I understand what you're saying. I don't love him or anything. But I always found it was funny when he made that insane block against the Wolves, right? And then Kevin Durant didn't even give him props or anything. I hate Kevin Durant's attitude, and I think he's a cancer to teams. He talks shit behind people's backs. I don't want anything to do with him. And I was pro getting him last year, actually.
Yep, so was I, but I was wrong.
Yeah, we were both wrong. So good thing they didn't walk on that landmine.
Yeah, I mean, the value you could get him at is pretty low. It's probably, but like, again, I don't think the Rockets are just going to give him up for like Julius Randle because Randle doesn't fit on their roster. If anything, they would probably want Rudy. Which
yeah,
we can't be.
They would want Rudy. You're 100% correct.
And because
well, and I'm not sure. Steven Adams, obviously, Steven Adams and Rudy are different players, but I'm just saying they had that brooding big and Steven Adams, and I'm not really sure what's up with him anymore. I can't even remember the injury he had.
Actually, I don't even know if they would want Rudy. That's a terrible take because their half-court offense is already abysmal.
Yeah.
So it would be a three-team trade probably type of thing where they have to get in someone. I mean, their offense will improve with Fred VanVleet too and Steven Adams, but
who would want Rudy though?
A lot of teams in the East.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Could see that.
But he doesn't. Rudy
a lot of any fan base he gets traded to is going to complain because they don't understand. But
Rudy's a perfect fit for a team that's on the rise that needs a floor raiser for the regular season.
Yeah, only Jazz fans and Wolves fans understand.
Actually, he makes a lot of sense in the Jazz, to be honest. But
yeah, give it.
So neither of us really want KD, so I don't really care. I'm just going to move on from him. I didn't want this guy at the trade deadline, but if we could get him straight up for or Julius at this point, I think I'd just take the risk on Jaw.
Yes, for a straight up trade of Julius. Yes, I
Yeah.
would take that risk. Because if he was that big of a cancer, all you gave up was Julius. And I don't want to act like Julius is an absolute bum. He has value during the regular season. In
He
fact,
didn't after the trade deadline this year.
I know, but before the trade deadline, he was really good for a
Yep.
couple months. But I'm just saying he's a reason why the Wolves had the number of wins they had, which really wasn't that impressive, but still. Um, yeah,
So
I would take on Morant for Julius, and that says a lot because I don't like his personality or his attitude. Although maybe he's grown up a little bit. Honestly, I have no clue. I think only he and people close around him know for sure if he's grown up a little bit. Also, Ja has lost that insane athleticism he had. A lot of
yep.
people don't talk about that. He can't shoot. Do I
Yeah.
think that Ja is working on his shot in the offseason? I just don't see it. I have a feeling he's partying or effing off.
Yeah.
I don't see him working hard in the offseason to become the best. I don't think he has that drive.
Well, and the fact that he should be entering his prime and getting better, and he's gotten worse.
Yeah, he doesn't have the same athleticism, and that was Ja's real strength was that insane athleticism. He lost
Yeah.
it a little bit.
And I mean, if the Spurs are the new team that you got to get through, Ja's like superpower was getting to the rim. Well, what's he gonna do with Wemby standing there?
Would I be kind of excited if we got him for a Julius? I would be. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I just would be because I would be thinking back to old Ja.
right.
But I don't know. I just don't see it. I would be excited. I won't lie, for sure.
Yeah. So, what about Zion?
Yes. So
A healthy Zion.
I know your thoughts on this. And Zion played 60, I think around 60 games this last season. Yes, I am very interested in Zion. I've thought about it more. I am super interested in him. Now, I want to ask you, what do you think we would have to give up for a Zion?
Well, they're not gonna want Julius for him, so I think Julius would be who would be given up, and I think it would again. This is the hard part for the Wolves is there's so many three-team trades that would have to be worked out to get all these players. So you got to find a third team that's willing to play ball with all this.
Hmm.
Because again, I don't think we have a whole lot that we're going to be willing to trade that's going to interest the Pelicans. Because
I
Rudy,
just I just thought about this right now. I think the only way the Wolves could reach Thunder and Spurs levels the next few seasons is if they trade for a Zion, don't have to give up a ton, and Zion has doesn't get injured and is like true Zion. That would be the only way the Wolves could actually contend with those teams. That's my thought. Because even a trade for Kyrie, they're not going to have enough. They're just not. It's
so
getting a Zion and hoping he's healthy. That's the only way. Because imagine a fully healthy Zion in the playoffs with Ant.
yeah.
That'd be insane.
So, and what kind of convinced me, I was listening to Dane Moore and Jace Frederick talk about Zion, and before I listened to the podcast, I'm like, I don't want Zion. And like hearing them break it down, like you said, that's a kind of the messaging is you need to find a guy that is at his lowest value that you can basically strike a lottery ticket. And what they said about especially is in the two games that Zion played against Wemby, he's so powerful that Wemby can't just shut him down, which for the most people in the paint, like they just can't score on Wemby. You need to be big and strong, and Zion is probably one of the strongest players in the NBA.
I didn't listen to that podcast, by the way, so that's cool that they kind of had the same thought.
But yeah, all these guys that I just said, outside of Ja, I'd say Ja you can get at a pretty low value. You're giving up a lot of value to get any of those players. That you're going to have to be giving up a lot of future assets. And like you said, if you want to compete, I just think Zion and Ja are the next ones. The next few guys are just kind of, well, the next one is another one that I think is that similar mold of you're going for an injured player that you hope can stay healthy. DeJounte Murray from New Orleans.
Yeah, I really wanted him a few years ago, but
And now his value is like absolutely bottom of the barrel, I would say. You could get him for Julius. Again, it's a three-team trade because the Pelicans Julius doesn't fit on what the Pelicans are doing right now.
I'd be interested
But
in him. I'd be interested in him for sure.
I would like him to. I just think, he costs a lot of money, so it could just blow everything up and you might get nothing out of it. But again, I think it's time that Nas needs to start anyway. So that's where it's like, if we can get any of these guys of the last three, I'm interested in it. I want to have a low value that turns into a high level all-star, which DeJounte Murray has been in the past.
Yeah.
And then last two guys I have, Darius Garland, which with where the Clippers ended up in the lottery, I think he could, getting the Pacers pick. It sounds like there's a chance if they get a point guard that they might want to move Darius Garland. I tend to think they're not going to move him, and at least for probably a year. But I don't know if I'm really all that interested in Darius Garland. He costs a lot of money, and I don't think he's ever been all that good. I mean, he hasn't been good for a few years, and maybe he could live back up to it. But there's a reason the Cavs moved on from him, and there's a reason the Clippers are already looking at moving on from him. I just
very injury prone. He played 45 games in 2025, 2026. He played 75, 57. Yeah, I guess he's not as injury prone as I thought, but he's pretty injury prone.
yeah.
I like him. I like his game. I remember the Wolves actually wanted to draft him years ago, and I think they got like Chris Dunn or something.
They got sniped. That was yep. They thought he was going to fall.
I do like his game.
And then
honestly, I don't know what we would have to give up for him. I don't know. I don't know about all the details associated with that. I would probably take if the price was right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally, Derek White, which I think Boston will try and move Derek White.
Which is crazy because he was like an unmovable player just prior to this last season.
He gives you a little bit better ball handling, but I don't think he solves enough problems for the Wolves where like he makes us a contender.
Yeah, his effective field goal dropped 10 percentage points from his insanely good year with Boston last year, and then this prior season he dropped freaking 10 percentage points for effective field goals. So he just could not shoot the ball. He dropped from 38% to 32% from three. So yeah, he just had a major drought. He dried up from a shooting perspective, essentially.
Yeah.
He's an excellent defender, of course. And if the price was right, I'd be very interested.
Same.
How much of a true point guard do you think he is, though? Do you think he would really? Do you see him and Ant really working together, playing off each other well? I don't know. I kind of struggle to see it, honestly.
Yeah, I see him as a two guard.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think when we go through all those trade options, number one, I'm just gonna say it. Number one is Zion for me, and number two is Kyrie. Now, if we got Zion,
Kyrie, Ja.
Yeah. Now, if we got Zion, that wouldn't fix the lack of a PG.
No, I think if you go for Zion, you're still trading for a point guard, but I don't think you're trading for Kyrie at that point.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I mean, if
for sure.
Ideally it's like a Zion DeJounte Murray would be a great trade to me.
Yeah.
But you're giving up at that point. Then you're probably giving up Julius and probably Rudy, which then you're like, okay, so can you bring in a center like Nick Claxton or something like that for a rim protector from Brooklyn or something like that? But that's kind of.
I'm just going to be honest. I would love to get Zion and Drew Holiday. I know you didn't mention Drew Holiday, and I know he's older, but he has a high IQ. His play is not based on athleticism. He's a really solid point guard who plays really good defense. I could see a Drew Holiday and a Zion somehow getting those two, but again, I don't know what the cost would be to get both those players. It'd be fairly expensive. So
yeah, I guess Portland probably is looking to move him with Dame coming back. So
yeah, so I think that would fix a couple issues there for sure.
Cool. All right, well, that's all we have for today. David, thanks for joining, and we'll be back next Sunday.